I'm Patrick Gavin, Politico. It is now time to turn the table with the Sunday show host, as we do every Friday. This week's topics: the government shutdown and its implications, and healthcare website glitches. Joining us to talk about that and more, Fox News' Chris Wallace and CNN's Zakaria. Chris, let's play that classic Washington parlay game, which is give us your winners and losers from the recent government shutdown.
Well, look, it's pretty obvious. I'm not going to say anything terribly surprising. I think you have to say, first of all, nobody won. Washington looks ridiculous. And the anger with this entire town and all of the politicians has only increased to the degree that you have to pick. I think you'd say the president. He said he wasn't going to negotiate, and they gave up almost nothing, just this income verification. Which is certainly not what the opponents of Obamacare were asking for. The loser, obviously the Republican Party, taking a huge hit, and the fact that you have Mitch McConnell now saying there's no education and the second kick from a mule, and we're not going to put the country or the Republican Party through this again. They know how badly they were hurt. Ted Cruz, I think you could argue it both ways. On the one hand, he has tremendously alienated himself among the Senate Republican club on Capitol Hill, but I think to a large degree he's playing an outside game, and there are a lot of people who hate Obamacare who think now he's the only one in this town who has the guts to stand up and fight for their principles. So, depending on where you look at it, he's a winner and a loser.
I think one of the reasons why some people think that the president did come out a winner out of the government shutdown is that had the shutdown not happened, everybody would have been focused on the massive sort of glitch in the rollout of the health care plan. They're being a little bit sheepish in talking about that. What do you expect to hear? I mean, that's been, by all estimations, a big failure. What do you expect to see with regards to that, and also in terms of the Obama administration's messaging about what went wrong, why it went wrong, and how they're going to fix it?
I can tell you that when the president met with Senate Republicans late last week, he actually brought it up, and he said, he kind of teased them and said, I'll bet you're sorry now that you shut down the government, because otherwise they'd all be focusing on Obamacare.
Right.
He knows it's been a mess. Look, messaging isn't the problem here. The problem is the system has got to work. You can't spin your way out of this. And, there was an example this week where there was a report that about a woman who had problems and what had happened to her premiums in Delaware, but they wouldn't give out her name. And reporters were able to find out her name. Why? Because she was the only person in the entire state of Delaware who had successfully signed up for Obamacare. Until you solve that problem, you can message till the cows come home. It isn't going to do any good.
Fareed, we obviously heard a lot this week about the government shutdown in terms of domestic politics, but I want to get your take on sort of how it's been perceived around the world. We obviously avoided a major catastrophe, but obviously I think the world and America saw just how dysfunctional Washington has become. Did this, even though we averted a true catastrophe, did it affect the United States' reputation abroad?
I think it did. I think it's important to understand why this is so crucial. We sell our debt at virtually nothing. In other words, we borrow lots of money from the world, and we give people who lend us money essentially no interest. There is a negative real rate. In other words, they're paying us for the privilege of lending us money. So in that context, what are they getting? The one thing they're getting is surety of repayment, right? This is the whole point of treasury bills, is that they're meant to be absolutely safe. What we did was introduce an element of uncertainty, maybe not a large element. A lot of people say, well, the market sort of knew at the end of the day this would sort itself out. But clearly there was some element of uncertainty. And I think that's a very dangerous thing, because at the bedrock of the global financial system and of American financial power around the world is the fact that we will pay these things back 100%, no exceptions, no doubt. And I think we muddied that water, which was very unfortunate.
Well, and tell me, amongst sort of established democracies around the world, is the United States unique? And, the president talks a lot about how we're governing by crisis. Is the United States unique in that, or in fact, this is sort of how democracy gets done around the world in a lot of places?
No, we're pretty much unique. Look, we have an 18th century constitution that was an incredible act of genius at the time, but it is obsessed with the dangers of untrammeled power. It is obsessed with the idea of a George III-like figure becoming a kind of tyrant. And so there are many checks and balances, many opportunities for veto, many opportunities for paralysis and gridlock. And then those have been multiplied, put aside what the founders intended, by things like the filibuster or this debt ceiling, which are, as you know, completely extra-constitutional, by which I mean not in the Constitution. So what we've created is a system that has so many opportunities for deadlock, paralysis, and breakdown that I think it's not a particularly good model for the rest of the world. I mean, in the broadest outlines and in historical terms, the American Constitution is an act of genius. But there are problems, I think, that we need to face up to. It has become very difficult to govern a modern nation if you have so many potentials for blockage.
That's it for this week. You can check out our full interviews online at politico.com/turnthetable. Have a nice weekend.